Well, hi there, and thanks for joining us for an interview in our Being Human series. We've spent a couple of weeks now thinking about what it means to have a body and what our Christian faith has to say about it. And today we're thinking about the question, what if my body doesn't work? We're all confronted from time to time by our own limitations, and they beg the question, what, if anything, does the Christian faith actually have to say to that? And Dick Rathbone is with us to help us on that. Dick was a GP for many years and so has a whole career's worth of experience walking with people through their struggles with their physical bodies, very obviously. But it's also a profoundly personal question for you, Dick. You've got your own experience of cancer in the past, some time back, and it's very kind of you to be prepared to talk through these things with us. So I'm going to dive straight in.
Right.
First of all, what if my body doesn't work? So you've had the privilege, Dick, of meeting, you've cared for many people, wonderful divine image bearers, each one of them, of course. But you've had a unique impression as well of the limitations of our experience in our human bodies. Just help us think through, what different shape does that limitation actually take? In what different senses do our bodies not work?
Right. To start off with, by way of sort of preface to this, I regard the human body in three parts: a body, a mind, and a soul. And that's a human body. And there's a precedent for that, because when Jesus was talking about the summary of the Ten Commandments, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul.
Yeah.
And I thought that's not a bad starting place. So that's always been the sort of principle guiding through my career. Secondly, you mentioned that I had some personal experience of it, which is absolutely right. And this was 20 years ago when I was found to have colon cancer in a difficult place, so it required some major surgery. Which, well, as you realise, happily went well. But it took me about over 2 years to get over this. And that's without any complications. As I say, it all certainly went well. And it makes you realise that some illnesses have a long-term effect.
Yeah.
What sort of effects? Well, they impact on what you're able to do, what you plan, your family, holidays, meeting people. So the impact on your daily life in lots of occasions. Okay, we've mentioned cancer. Obviously, there are all sorts of other things by way of illnesses which can affect us as human beings, our human bodies. Just think, not so long ago, COVID was attacking us, and so many people were finding that really, really hard, and it's still lurking around. Trauma, injuries, everybody has tweaked their back lifting something, and it happens more often as you get older. Old age. A patient said to me a long, long time ago, and I didn't fully understand it then, old age is not for wimps. I fully understand that now. And I've heard it repeated time and time again. So old age is a factor you can't ignore. And what I don't want to ignore is mental health issues. Because they can be very, very demanding. You can have some days which are good, and you think, oh, I'm getting through this. And the next day it's not so good. And that puts it down again. So it's an up and down thing. And of course, some of the mental health issues are very severe. I'm thinking of bipolar and schizophrenia. Those are really big issues that the human body, human person, has to deal with.
And actually, mental health is a great example, isn't it? Because when we think about mental health, and I know this very well from my dad, who was on antidepressants at various different points in his life, you know, he would say very clearly, you need to understand this is an experience in my mind, but it is also very bluntly, an experience in my body. If I take these pills and the chemical levels change in my body, things will be better for me. We can't divorce, in that sense, the experience of the mind and the experience of the body. So listen, that's a great overview, and many of us will need no educating about the reality that our bodies at times don't work. An obvious question is, why do these things exist at all? What sense does the Bible make of that reality?
Well, I think we have to go back to square one.
Yeah.
And by that I mean Genesis chapter 1. God created creation. And in creation was human beings, created in God's image. And when he had finished creation, he looked back on it and he said it was good. Yeah. But in fact, he said it was very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was something that God had created and had worked well. And he built us in his image to have a relationship with him. But the problem is that after Genesis 1 comes Genesis 2 and 3. Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, the serpent, and the choice about taking fruit from the tree.
Yeah.
And Adam and Eve were deceived into taking fruit from the tree, which meant that, lo and behold, sin was introduced into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that had an impact on the whole of creation, not just Adam and Eve, but the whole of creation. And I think that was highly significant and has had an impact on creation ever since.
Yeah. So we get the curses for the woman, particularly in childbirth.
Absolutely.
And that's a really striking thing, isn't it? Because she's got such a key role in the fulfillment of the great commandment to fill the earth, and that's where the frustration is going to be. And then the working of the garden, well, that's going to be really hard for Adam. But they're actually just the tip of the iceberg for the whole experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes mankind human, mortal, so that they're actually going to die.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in the equation first of all.
Right.
None of this is what God had intended. This was not in his plan. But he didn't want mankind to be a puppet. He wanted mankind to have a relationship with him by choice. The problem was in the Garden of Eden, the wrong choice was made.
Yeah. So I think this is such an important thing to sort of work through here. Undoubtedly, the sense in Genesis is that our fallen nature is connected with sin. But we might reasonably ask, well, why do some people seem to suffer a great deal, whereas other people don't seem to suffer so much? And including some people who've done some pretty awful things don't really seem to have much of a comeuppance. Yeah, how do we make sense of that then?
With difficulty. With real difficulty. And I think this is a question that has challenged Christians over the generations. There is no easy answer to this one. I think we have to go back to the sort of square one sort of situation, is that once sin was introduced into the world, it affected the whole of creation.
So global impact.
Global impact. The good people, the bad people. And all of us are going to suffer in one way or another, some more than others, the good people as well as the bad people. It's not an easy question, but it does happen, and we all witness it, and we all ask that question, why? I find it helpful, don't you, that even in Jesus' day, people were asking the question. You remember the Tower of Siloam falls and kills a whole load of people, and they want to say to Jesus, "Oh, what did they do wrong?" And Jesus said, "No, that's not how it works." Right.
At least the conversation is no stranger, or Jesus is no stranger to that conversation.
No, well, he was asking the blind man blind from birth.
Yes.
Who
what did
has
he
sinned?
do? Yeah.
This man or his parents?
Yeah.
Neither, said Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, so let's. I think we've kind of named the reality, and I think that's so important as Christians, isn't it? Let's move on a bit and think: how do we respond? How do we as Christians respond to the reality of our bodies that don't work?
Again, with difficulty. And again, we have to go back, and I know it's a bit boring and we're repeating the same thing, but it's because sin has been introduced.
Yeah.
Also throw into the equation Satan.
Yeah.
He's around, he's there, and he's active. And he's going to sort of target people and be active as and when. But it's not easy to understand that. And I think we also have to remember that this is not what God had intended. He had intended that we would have a perfect body and a perfect relationship with Him. So it's not an easy one that we're in.
So that's significant because we recognise that we're not being asked to just say, "Oh, well, it's absolutely okay, that it's fine."
Yeah.
We're not being kind of told that we've got to have a sort of stoicism on that level of just que sera, sera, and that's fine.
Right.
And that's helpful for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
But let's keep going with that because there's more than we can do than just acknowledge the reality of our suffering. I mean, you got a lifetime of response to that. So help us think a bit further. What else can we do to respond?
Right. Well, talk to our Maker.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the verse we've got for the year and for the church.
Yeah.
Do not be anxious about anything, but bring your petitions to the Lord.
Yeah.
So whatever we're dealing with, be it difficult, minor, if it's a concern to us, talk to God, pray about it. Be prepared to talk to other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't forget to sort of seek medical advice.
Yes.
Because in this day and age, so many wonderful treatments are available, which 40 years ago were not available. Don't sort of hold back from seeking medical advice. It has an important role to play. Also bear in mind that the human body has built within it the capacity to heal itself in many ways. Not totally, but if you cut yourself, you have some stitches put in. It's not the stitches that heal you. The stitches are there to hold things together so the body can heal itself. So have confidence in your body, but at the same time get the help that is available out there should you need it. And thinking of our whole person, our three-part person, don't forget to talk to the Lord about it.
And I guess as a GP, and I know this as a son of two GPs, there was always the debrief at the end of the day, of course very confidentially, but that the engagement with patients was always partly physiological, but it was also social, it was also even spiritual at different levels. And I guess you've had a chance throughout your life, and many of us will, to respond to this by actually serving and healing others or helping in the healing of others. Some of us, like you, can do that in a really amazing way because of the knowledge that you have. All of us have some role to play, don't we? In the healing that others might experience.
Absolutely. Supporting people, pointing them in the right direction, encouraging them. But an example comes to my mind that the practice I finished up in 25 years plus in this practice, was right about 100 yards from the church we attended. And one evening, a patient came in to see me who I know well. Had got really rotten arthritis in her knee joints. And I felt we'd got to pursue this. And so I gave some medication to help with the short term with regard to going on. Immediately after that surgery session, there was a meeting at church, a healing ceremony, a healing service. I'm running along to that. And I was in a role in the church at the time. So the minister at the time said, "Oh, Dick, come on in. We're just praying for Brenda. Would you like to join us?" So I did. And I felt this was the complete picture.
Yeah, love it.
It was,
Love
it stayed with me for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's still with me now, because I remember it now.
Yeah.
And it puts the thing in perspective.
Yeah.
And so that was a really great moment.
Yeah.
I have to say, the subsequently, Brenda went on to have bilateral knee replacements.
There's a bit of realism in there as well.
Yeah, but you know, when I started practice, knee replacements weren't available.
Yeah.
People were perhaps in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, so again, it's looking at this whole picture, body, mind and soul, and using all the resources that are out there, and don't forget to consult the Maker.
So finally, Dick, just how, wrapping this up, how do we respond in our own personal lives? You've given us an insight as to how you've helped others. You've given us some of the sort of big ideas, the theory. Now just help us understand from a personal perspective, as you've had your own wrestles with, illness, and you've got them now as well. What have you learned as personally as a follower of Christ as you've dealt with the brokenness of your body?
Right. Well, looking at the experience as a GP over a long period of time, there's the whole range of possibilities. Some are very superficial, some are very shocking and impact on people's lives enormously. In a personal level, I'd want to sort of quote perhaps two examples of people whom I've met for whom the extremes of response came about. One was a couple who Faye and I used to go to All Souls Langham Place, and in the house group there was a young couple who were having their first baby. And lo and behold, at about 20 weeks, at the house group meeting, they revealed there was a problem with the baby. Not likely to survive. If it was born, it's going to have huge abnormalities. Possibility of termination was offered. They declined that, and they said, "No, we're going ahead with this, and we're going to take what comes, and we're going to celebrate it." And that's precisely what they did. Yes, okay, Christopher was born, and he had all sorts of problems, and they took him with them everywhere. They introduced him to the house group, and they introduced him to church. They celebrated him. And he actually lived till he was about 1. And during that time, somehow or other, they were interviewed on BBC Radio. When the time for the funeral came, All Souls Church was packed. They had celebrated their little boy. Even though it was a very short time, and even though
one full of suffering, no doubt, and medical
absolutely
intervention,
had
so
to
much.
cope with that. But that was a celebration, and it was inspiring. The other side of the scale, at the other extreme, was a man who was a patient, but also went to the same church as myself, and he was a very happy, jolly man, and he always welcomed people at church. He was on the door, the ideal person. And he and his wife had no children. And his wife died in the early 60s. But he married another lady, a single lady in the church, and they had 10 years of happy life. Then, lo and behold, he got cancer, which was untreatable, and he very quickly became ill. And at that moment, he lost his faith. And that was tragic. Here was this guy who all through his life had been this really wonderful witness to the Lord. And then at the last minute, now I'm sure the Lord is he's the perfect assessor and judge of these moments. But those are the extreme possibilities that we have to be on the lookout for. In a personal role, as I said, I have experienced cancer, which took it was the surgery that took a long time to get over, because it was pretty major stuff.
Invasive,
and getting the systems working again.
Yeah.
And it impacted on life because we couldn't plan things. We've got to think, how can we do this? How can we cope with that? Couldn't plan holidays, trips here and everywhere. So it impacted for quite a long time. But the thing, this is the point I want to make and underline here, is when someone is suffering, don't forget their nearest and dearest.
Yeah.
Because they are suffering too, in a different way, but they need support too. They're perhaps feeling, they're watching a loved one suffering, battling, B, they're feeling helpless. For the patient, certainly for me 20 years ago, I'd got something to do. I'd got to get better. And I'd got to tackle this. But for Faye watching, that was hard. So I think in all these situations, whatever circumstances come your way, think of the nearest and dearest as well, because they're having to cope with the problem in addition. We've been very grateful for the way the Lord has been with us and seen us through situations. And as we've got old, various problems have come our way, we're gradually dealing with. But as I look back, I think one of the perhaps most grateful moments I had was before this operation 20 years ago. The surgeon, who was a friend, a Christian, he and his family were patients in the practice, so we knew them in that role. The night before the surgery, he came into my room to explain what was going to be happening and whatever. And then he finished by saying, "Let's pray." And he prayed, and I remember he prayed that he would be given guidance in the decisions he was going to have to make, and the Lord would see us through. And I found that wonderfully inspiring. At a time when I knew there was an awful lot awaiting me, but the Lord was there, and that dimension had been included, and I was a lot more peaceful because of that.
Well, that is fantastic, Dick. There's so many themes that you've helped us draw out there, and I guess I'd love to sort of wrap it up really with just landing, I guess, on our forward-looking, focus, even as Christians. You've mentioned you've got some health battles right now. You're going to continue to have them.
Yes.
One day you're getting a new body, though.
Absolutely.
That became so clear to me the last couple of weeks. I sat with my dad, who was dying, and we were reading the readings of the day, and it happened to be the vision of the new heavens and the new earth, where there no tears, no crying, no pain. And as he was, wrestling through his last couple of weeks, that was a great encouragement to him as well. And for many of us, that is the ultimate hope that we can hang on to, even in our hardest moments. But Dick, thank you so much for the chance to speak to you, and we really pray that the many themes that you've brought out here are going to be of encouragement and learning for those who are...
Well, it's something which we're all going to experience, and probably experience more as we get older. More people, we're all living longer. So all these problems are going to be increasing and an impact to us as individuals, as Christians.
So we are so grateful to have a Lord who's going to give us new bodies.
Absolutely. A few of us will be sorry about that.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to you for coming and joining us as we've explored part of what it is to be human and what we do with those bodies that don't work, as we look forward to them being redeemed by Christ.